Hello and welcome back to episode 10 of the Q49 podcast, brought to you exclusively by the Hoosier Network. My name is Austin Platt, joined alongside my co-beat reporter Joe Cronin, formerly on the Hoosier Network beat, now part of Sports Illustrated, Matt Byrne. And the big guest today, ladies, gentlemen, and others, is Jack Edwards, former director of HN and formerly the head of the beat. Jack, welcome back. It is great to see you. And welcome back to the place that you once knew at home.
No, I was waiting for the applause to come in, and he kind of really buried that. I was kind of awkwardly just holding the pose. I was like, all right. Now it's good to be back. Good to see everybody. Be back in the lovely state of Bloomington, Indiana. City. I've said state of Bloomington a couple times on accident. It's great to be back, and it's really exciting that tomorrow there's a home NCAA tournament game. It's kind of something that you shouldn't take for granted. It's a very cool thing that happens every year.
Not at all. It is definitely feels like it's an every year thing for Ty Dagley's squad. 37 straight years in the NCAA tournament. Indiana coming off of the double out of absolutely nowhere. Of course, they won the regular season with that win against Rutgers. Results went their way. And then hosting the entire Big Ten tournament, beat Wisconsin, Michigan, and then Penn State by the score of 1-0 on Sunday, the second time the Hoosiers had taken down the Nittany Lions, which I think for most of us thought that would kind of punch Indiana's ticket again to the second round. They get the bye for what would have been the 10th straight year, but we watched the NCAA selection show on Monday afternoon, and it turns out that Indiana not earning of that top 16 seed, so instead they will host Lipscomb on Thursday, as Jack mentioned. That is today, as you're listening to this, at 6 o'clock at Bill Armstrong. I know it interferes with basketball a little bit, but it's an NCAA tournament match. Indiana hosting once again, and if they win, then they are off to Wake Forest, what would be on Sunday. That is for a 5 o'clock match, so it's just announced. Fellas, let's start with the Penn State match on Sunday. Joe, we were there. That was an electric atmosphere, an incredible match, and one that Indiana really had dominated, especially in that first half and even in the second half.
Oh, yeah. I showed up 75 minutes early and had to park not even near Bill Armstrong Stadium. It was great. There was a palpable buzz going around that arena, and over 4,000. The student section was electric. They allowed that half section behind the net that they did against Washington, storming the field too. I mean, even Coach Yeagley, he was so fired up. He was like, Big Ten might not like it, but I loved it. Like, just being able to celebrate that with the fans. Sarver's goal, his celebration, he goes up and just embraces the student section. And what a game. I mean, that final 6 minutes, Penn State was firing shots off. It was 1-0, and J.T. Harms stepped up in a huge way. I mean, he's been really just that backbone of the defense this season. And well, it was just fun atmosphere, fun game, and getting that Big Ten double was huge for them. But not getting the national seed was a little surprising. I thought they would sneak in at a 16-15 maybe, but it'll be tough. Lipscomb's a good offensive team, and then obviously a win having to travel to Winston-Salem. That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the recency bias of Indiana winning 9 of their past 10, I guess it kind of seemed like national seed was on the way. But with their early start, I think that just kind of from the beginning, and maybe we didn't realize it, but that from the beginning kind of hurt their national seed chances. Because I don't know. I mean, you look at the field, you can't really take any team away. ACC. Really good conference. Sun Belt, really good conference. 9 out of 16 teams are from those conferences. So, I mean, if Indiana wants to go to the Elite Eight and they face seeded teams all the way, they're basically going to have to run the gauntlet of the ACC. It's 4 ACC teams on the way to the College Cup, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah, the game on Sunday was the kind where you have major FOMO, when you're no longer in Bloomington on the beat, able to kind of see that. Because watching the broadcast on Big Ten Network, it was that atmosphere that you mentioned, Joe, it translated. And that was something that was very cool to see. It's hard to compare. I'm not sure if, Austin, you'd have a comparison for that crowd. It seemed like one of the best they've had in recent years. And I am glad there was that storming of the field moment afterwards. They haven't had that probably since even before I was at Indiana from 19 through 23. So it's the kind of thing that can launch a push in the NCAA tournament, and I'm not unsurprised that they're not nationally ranked, considering they're the only Big Ten team. So it's like you won the Big Ten, but nobody else from the Big Ten was deemed good enough to make the tournament. So how good does that look in comparison? But it's a really tough thing not being nationally ranked, because we remember last year, Indiana didn't get lucky in their run, but they had more home games than they were really supposed to because of some upsets that fell their way. They're guaranteed to hit the road in round 2 if they win this first round game. And then after that, it's just a toss-up. So it's one extra game. It's not twice as hard that way. But I'm fascinated with how they handle it because it's an obstacle they really haven't had to face a ton in recent years.
Indiana, obviously, last year, their run to the College Cup and the championship, although it was fantastic, they got really lucky if you think about it. I mean, Virginia lost to Marshall. Indiana hosted Marshall. Stanford lost to UNC Greensboro. It's a trip out west you don't want to make. You can ask the women's basketball team. That was not a fun trip for them. And and they got and they faced off against Pitt, which was a strong team, but maybe not the strongest possible team. And then they ran into Syracuse, the number one team, basically kind of the top team. They felt like the hottest team in the nation at that point, and their luck kind of just ran out. Jack, first off, explain to the people what you're doing now, for those of you who didn't follow. That should have been my first question.
No, it's been a nice experience translating from college soccer at Indiana to professional soccer. So obviously in America, you've got the main men's leagues is Major League Soccer. Below that, there's MLS Next Pro, the developmental league for the Major League Soccer, then USL Championship, USL League One. And then I've been having the really great privilege to work in broadcasting a lot of those leagues, not Major League Soccer, hopefully someday in the future. But it's been a great experience out of college to kind of really get a good experience and just kind of take in all the levels of soccer in this country, because college is very different than professional ranks, and it was cool seeing some former Hoosier players that I had covered, that I had seen play in the professional ranks. It was just cool seeing that transition that happens. So it's been a great moment for me since graduating, and I'm very excited to see what you fine gentlemen do over the next couple years to translate the illustrious players that play at Indiana where they go and where the illustrious beat reporters go. But yeah, Austin, it's been great.
Now you're a Florida man, too.
I'm a Florida man, South Florida.
Hard,
Jack.
Yeah.
That's hard to imagine. So, Indiana, a fantastic display on Sunday. Dominated the first half, played well enough the second half. JT Harms, Chris Shake's kind of showdown was awesome, and Sam Sarver getting the goal, his 8th of the year, was the difference. But now it's kind of feels like not necessarily a completely different season, but now it's win or go home. Indiana has known that. We knew they were going to be in the NCAA tournament for some time after they had felt like beat Wisconsin in the quarters. It felt like they were safe. And then that thrilling win over Michigan, and now the one over Penn State. So now Lipscomb on Thursday. It's different because the mentality of this team now, they've had a week off for 9 straight years, and now all of a sudden it's a Monday selection show. They learned around 1 o'clock. It depends. I scrubbed forward and I cheated to find out that Indiana did not have the bye, and I beat everybody to the tweets.
3 years on the beat, and I never knew you could do that.
That was it was frustrating, dude.
Thing.
That was I scrubbed through that 2 times before Platt even found it, and I was like, where are they? And I was only looking at the national seed, so I just completely missed.
You disregarded that.
Wake Forest. I skipped over Wake Forest 2 times, and Indiana was right there. And then I saw you do it, and I was like, where are they? I'm like texting you. I'm like, where is Indiana? Like, what is going on? And then I saw your tweet, and then I went back to the 10 seed because you were doing it on your phone, which is really smart. I was doing it on my laptop where I have like the bar thing, so I was just using my hand to like. It's like I couldn't even tell where I was skipping to. I was like, please just let me land right on the exact spot. But hey, it's all fair. You won. Good job.
I've won a lot lately.
No, you've not. No, you've not.
Story for another day. So, Lipscomb, I guess let's start, with the season as a whole, because I think the biggest thing, based on the reaction was we were all pretty surprised at first not seeing Indiana as a national seed. I think it's the way Todd Yeagley kind of expressed it to us. He kind of felt going into the tournament, hey, even if the conference is having a down year, obviously Maryland not even making the Big Ten tournament is something that's the first time in 20 plus years. Right. Shocking is the way to put it. They're not in the NCAA tournament. But Indiana's turnaround was really something else. But you look at it, I think, from an outsider perspective, it's more understandable now why they did not get the national seed. The Big Ten was down. Obviously, it's hard to put Indiana in as a seed when nobody else in the conference made it. And that's the first time, and we have to go back a long time into the archives because Maryland had made it 23 straight years. Indiana has made it 37 straight years. So it's maybe hard, somewhere in the middle to find the last time only one Big Ten team made the tournament. We thought maybe Penn State was a snub, but I think going back, it's more understandable why they did not get it and just overall the struggle of the season. Jack, I'll go to you first because we've seen this team struggle the last 3 years now in terms of slow starts to the season. Granted, they've turned it around. They've gotten the national seeds each of the past 2 years, but not this year. What do you think the biggest difference was, even though Indiana did win the hardware, something they couldn't do the last 2 years?
For me, with the slow starts, it's a case of the way that Todd Yeagley likes to have his teams is to just kind of be really in the margins of games and try and just be a more defensive than attacking and open-minded, free-flowing team. That's never been how they've been the last couple years. They've had great individual talent, but a lot of these last few years has been kind of predicated on finding the go-to guy, whether it was Victor Bezerra, spring of 2021, whether it was Ryan Wittenbrink, is it Sam Sarver this year? Because it hasn't been a case of Indiana kind of having these flowing moves to score these goals, to win these titles, win this hardware. It's been, we found the guy that we can hang our hat on, and maybe it takes a little time for that guy to kind of get into his groove. And that was kind of the case with Sam this year, where he's kind of, it was interesting to me kind of as an outsider that he was the guy who's kind of popped up with a lot of big goals just all throughout this campaign. So for me, defensively, Indiana looks markedly better than they did at the beginning of the year. They are much more organized through the middle, moving Hugo Baccarat kind of around. A really interesting piece that they brought in. Would have loved to kind of cover him and really kind of been up close with his role that he's had. Been a fascinating piece for Todd Yeagley to have, just kind of have this grittiness through the middle. And I think he'll be a really nice piece that they haven't had really since AJ Palazzolo in the spring of 21 run, when they had this 6'2" guy in the middle of the park who could just get in front of people and just make big tackles. They'd kind of lost that gritty defensive presence in the middle of the park. So having him, having just kind of the versatile options they've got all across the team, they're going to try and win a lot of 1-0s, which is always risky. You know, you've seen the way they've lost the last few years: golden goal to Washington, penalties, obviously, to Syracuse, and golden goal to Marshall. So it's just, they're going to be close, but this team's hot. I mean, 9 of 10 with wins. It's the kind of thing where, even though they have to head to Wake Forest, head across the country for that, should they beat Lipscomb, which is no easy task, they're a team who really are going to test the defensive fortitude for Indiana. They're clicking in the right time, and it's the kind of thing where Indiana always trends upwards as the season progresses. I don't know how they managed to do it. It's kind of just intangible they've got in the program, and they've done it yet again this year. And I'm fascinated with how they overcome this hurdle of just having to go from literal round one, day one on Thursday, all the way to the end.
Yeah, I mean, I would just be interested to see how Lipscomb decides to defend against Sam Sarver. I mean, there's a lot of film on him now. He definitely has that tendency to, you know, run down the wing, and he usually always beats his man. I think that the Northwestern match was really interesting in the way that Northwestern defended Indiana. Indiana got a lot of shots off. So, you know, you might not say that that's a negative, but clearly it seemed like there was a strategy for Northwestern to just dive on everything. There was people in the stands. I don't know if they were coaches or not, but they were basically implying that the offense runs through Sam, so they're trying to get it to him. So they're basically kind of like talk coaching to the back line to sort of man mark Sam. So I don't know. I wonder if Lipscomb tries to do the same thing. Who knows? I mean, even if they try to do it, Indiana might have a trick up their sleeve with Sarver. He's really dynamic. He's really, really tough to guard either way. But I think this is going to be an interesting one. I mean, IU has won 9 of their past 10, and basically, you know, all of them have been in the conference. So it's maybe weird for Indiana to have to play this kind of different style, I guess, of team in Lipscomb.
Yeah. And just with Sarver, just jump in really quick, what's fascinating about just his pace being his biggest attribute, it makes it not impossible to man mark him, but you need a guy on him who can keep up when he has that just quick burst. You literally cannot teach that kind of speed that he has.
Absolutely.
You watch it, and it's just stunning how just fast he moves. So dynamic option, just so different than what Indiana has had in recent years, and it's been impressive that he's kind of stepped up into the leadership role that he's had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, and obviously he's the fan favorite. He has been this entire season. He embraces that too, and it's something that Yeagley always talks about. He just like tries to keep him in check before he does anything a little too silly was the word he used. But I want to go back to Austin's point with the start of the season. And I think that was the biggest Achilles heel why this team was not granted a national seed, is because their non-conference slate, they didn't get any marquee wins. They beat DePaul, they beat Butler, Evansville. Like
Indiana,
cool.
Indiana has no win. Indiana has no wins.
Oh, my bad. But that Trine game had no factor on the season, really.
Right.
If they lost that game, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
But they drew Notre Dame, which that's an opener. Notre Dame obviously has proven that they are a very good team. They are the second national seed in the entire nation. That loss to Washington, hurts a ton, especially with the way that Washington kind of just fell off this season. And that draw to Kentucky, I think, is the biggest one. Had they beat Kentucky, I think this team slips in.
Those are big names on paper, but they didn't get a win in any of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I'm also talking about men's soccer tonight. I'll probably use the same thing, but Indiana doesn't have a win over an NCAA tournament team.
No, they drew Kentucky and Notre Dame.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need an explanation for why they don't have a national and it's like it's I guess it's just the beginning. It's just the start.
And typically they play a lot of teams that make the tournament. Like I forget the stat last year, but there were a good number of teams. Losing to Clemson day one last season was kind of a way to learn. So they played a lot of teams in they made the tournament eventually, and that's a way to learn before you get to the tournament. So
Washington didn't even get in.
Well, yeah, I mean that
lost.
That going into the year looked like a game that was going to be good.
Yeah,
that was a top 10 matchup. And same with Kentucky. Yeah. And then when it came to it, Washington ended up not being great this season. And Kentucky
South Florida.
South Florida, that was a bad loss. That was a situation.
South Florida seemed like a really good team.
That was a situational loss because Brett Beebe got hurt. And was that one of the games that? I think that was the first game that Hugo didn't play.
That was mysterious. That's the eighth modern wonder of the world.
Yeah, we never got information on that.
Miss 2 games?
Yep, it was that one in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It was
we'll never know.
Very strange
We
time.
will never know.
But
I mean, that non-con is just on paper. It's just it struggles. To put the wins to justify a national seed. I think
it is tough because the strength of schedule is not on Indiana's side for a national seed. It's really not.
Yeah.
And the Big Ten isn't one of the better. I mean, the Big Ten, I would say, had good tests for Indiana, but when you match it up against the Pac or the Sun Belt or the ACC, all those teams, if you look at a team, because I was looking at Wake Forest and if you look at Wake Forest, I wouldn't say that they have a lot of marquee wins, but they have a lot of draws in conference and most of the ACC got national seeds, so it's that has a little bit more weight, even though Wake might have not beaten a lot of teams.
Oh, and I think Lipscomb will be a great test. Their offense is very good. They have the two guys on their team are tied for first in the nation for assists with 12. Yeah, they can create some scoring.
And the other player,
Spicer. He's 13
goals,
goals, ASUN Player of the Year. He was, I think, top 10 in the nation in goals.
13, yeah.
They have a lot of goal scoring potential right there. There's another guy on the team with 9 on the season, and then those two guys with 12 assists have also gotten multiple. I think 4 and 5. They have 9 between those two. So there's plenty of goal scoring to go around. The issue with Lipscomb is their defense. I think they went through 5 different starting rotations. And they changed the back line 8 different times, with those names. So there was not a lot of consistency. They have a freshman goalkeeper. He was on the all-freshman ASUN team and the second all-ASUN team as well. The only thing with that, it's a freshman keeper. There's only so much you can expect.
Not only that, he's suspended. He got a red card.
Really?
Rodriguez. I talked to the coach this morning, and we were talking about that. So they have 3 freshmen on the roster, goalkeepers. One of them is out. Got a red card.
And
in the semifinal of the ASUN tournament.
Goalkeeper's out?
Starting goalkeeper, red card.
Wow.
They won the championship with their. I think.
So is he suspended 2 games?
Yeah, I think it's.
Wow.
It's 2.
Wow.
So
it's straight red 2 suspension 2 games.
I think there's a difference in terms. I think it's straight.
As a keeper, what did he do?
You must have come out of goal and
handball
must
outside
have
the
done
box,
something.
clicked him out, clear goal scoring opportunity. It's actually quite easy. The goalkeeper.
I
I was
guess
gonna say it's
that's
easier to
fair.
get a red than I think it is a yellow as a keeper.
That's true.
I don't know why on paper though this game kind of screams Francis Brooklyn, if you remember that match.
Oh yeah.
Where it's
that's a throwback.
I need to watch more Lipscomb film. I will admit that, but that St. Francis Brooklyn in spring of 21, where they had the 2 dynamic forwards up top that were the fastest players in the country, and they were even very dynamic on their runs. It's I don't know because I don't know because with the assist thing, I don't know if they're just sending Spicer up who's really really fast, and that's on me. I need to watch some Lipscomb film here.
On that St. Francis game, it was the
crazy.
most bizarre goal. I forget the exact score. It may have been the only goal, but the way it happened was it was in the attacking corner for Indiana, and their defender, the left back, just clears it forward from the defensive corner, just clears it over the top. And Daniel Muni, who's playing at that time, he's a fast guy. He's one of the fastest guys for his size.
He got beat.
And it is the ball goes. The attacker doesn't touch it until it gets into the box. Indiana's 18.
I know. That guy was so fast.
Just beats the foot race, one touch, finishes it off. It's you can't not that you can't defend that, but it's just the most bizarre way to concede when you've got guys who can just score out of nothing. I will say though, the rotations does make me nervous for Lipscomb because what Indiana loves to do, they find their guys. And then they
find the weak spot.
They say for their own team, they find their 11, and they say, "All right, you guys just get used to playing with each other." When you have 8 different rotations, there's going to be some miscommunications. There's going to be some things to find, some spots for Indiana.
Indiana went through their fair share of rotating things, but it was never in the back line.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The thing.
The back line.
They had that. I mean, Alex Barker was a freshman and played every single game.
Yeah,
they had that figured out from the get-go. And one other thing offensively that they do, they will target the weak side pretty religiously, and it's a lot of the time the side that Sarver's on just because of his ability to beat guys down the line and cut back on a dime when the defender gets sent past the touchline. So it's happened multiple times this season. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Like, we've been kind of like flirting with that talk, especially earlier in the season. We were saying how I think that Michigan State game was going to be high-scoring, Washington was going to be high-scoring. This one will be because Lipscomb will get theirs. I truly believe that Lipscomb has the ability to get a goal. That offense is too good. There's 4 or 5 guys that can get theirs, and it's something that Indiana's not seen this season from a team that's that dynamic on an attack.
Final score: Indiana 1, Lipscomb 0. That's my prediction.
All right.
I would say that, but I guess. Okay, so for Sunday I said 1-1 PKs. Obviously that did not happen. Good job, Matt.
That's close.
Anyway,
it wasn't in the realm.
I mean, it was.
I think we were all rooting for a penalty shootout, to be quite honest.
Why?
You're weird.
Shakes
You're
versus
weird.
arms.
I understand that, but it's just
rooting
like,
for it.
I wasn't rooting for it, but
I'm gonna go.
I
I actually think that this could be like a 1-1, and then Indiana wins 2-1 in overtime. No golden goal, but just time expires and Indiana gets an overtime.
I miss
goal.
golden goal. I miss.
No.
I
don't like
the idea of it. The way to just kind of walk it off is cool.
It's
It's
you're
so
done.
cool, but
It's
from
brutal.
just play it out.
Yeah,
Why golden goal? Like, come on.
Because I mean, a team can get a goal within 90
the one thing that
seconds.
I am not the biggest fan of was the PK shootout in the championship because I think.
You rather just keep playing?
It's just
I think
that's so much playing.
I know,
though.
and there's like matches where
hours a
like
game.
Indiana won like 8 overtimes over Duke for a national championship. Not 8 overtimes, but I don't think that it would be egregious to like add
10 more minutes.
maybe another 15.
It's college overtime is 10 and 10 rather than 15 and 15.
I
at the
know.
professional
So,
level.
I mean, for a national championship,
Maybe in the College
it's
Cup
like,
they do a 15-15.
or you do 10-10-10.
That's a little weird.
I
You
mean,
have a third overtime.
I wouldn't mind that.
No,
I
overtime
actually
period.
wouldn't mind that. And like I feel like that wouldn't be that egregious.
Yeah.
No.
Because it's not like, oh, well, like players the whole year haven't been playing 3 over like 10 more minutes.
Us Americans love penalties. We love
Unless
us
it's like
penalties.
the Wimbledon, like remember Wimbledon, they always go like to the distance, and then they finally changed it to where after like 12-12 in the fifth set, they finally play a tiebreaker. I don't know why I just brought tennis into
No,
this.
no,
but
I
not a
know what
tennis
you're
guy,
talking
but
about. My
so-
dad's explained to me. I've tried to understand it, but I know what you're saying.
So I think there needs to be a happy medium, I think, in terms of penalties. See, I don't like shootouts in hockey either. I think it's not hockey.
No, that was actually
what about
really
this,
fun.
Burn? What about
No,
this?
okay,
So-
well, you can't.
No, because I'm saying like the goal is smaller, so it's like kind of. I mean,
Well, the puck is smaller.
yeah, I know, dude,
Nimrod.
but I feel like it's different because it's whether the keeper. I don't know.
It
It's
is
like,
different.
It's like if you fake a keeper out in soccer
Hockey.
or like you go a
Hockey.
different
Yeah,
way.
we were
like
talking
that's
about a
it.
completely different
But I
sport
feel
right
like
now.
tennis
no, but I
and
feel like
soccer.
sometimes
Yeah,
there's been instances in hockey where a keeper.
Why are
will
we
get,
talking about hockey?
Like faked out, but still like be there. I don't know, Joe.
I like
1-0.
the.
I had a
1-0
question though,
Indiana.
like
Okay, you just 1-0 Indiana.
with the potential with the
one-
potential of a 3 10-minute period. Would this be a bad idea? You play the 2 periods, and if a team scores in that 2 period, then it's done. But if it's still tied, you play that 3rd period.
I always love it's like a silver goal or something
Yes,
like that.
I like
where
that.
It ends the
half.
period that you're on, the half that you're on. I
Right.
like that personally, rather than keeping it going. I'm a fan of that personally.
What?
Where so if say it's first overtime, someone scores, doesn't end right there. But if it finishes 2-1 after that first overtime, you don't go to second overtime. It's over. So
over.
silver goal. So it doesn't go to 2 overtimes automatically. If that makes sense.
Oh, I've never heard that.
So,
I think-
like, if it's still going, it still goes. But if someone gets that goal, like, it's not goal and goal, like, it's not just done right away, but that would be wraps.
It puts the clock a lot closer to finishing. So.
yeah.
I want to bring up one thing. These teams met a few springs ago.
Yeah, they did. I looked up that story. I looked up that story.
I covered that game, and it was actually fascinating because Indiana was trialing a 5-at-the-back formation. They had Malungu Mbale as a right wing back. They played Patrick McDonald as a left wing back. They had Ryan Wittenbring playing as left wing back at times. I liked it a lot. I think it had a lot of potential. But then when the fall came around, Yeagley tried to keep with it, the 5-at-the-back, but it was leaky. I don't think it really fully jived with the center backs and how they wanted to play. And then they went back to the classic 4-4-2, 4-2-4, however you describe it. So that is my memory of that. Indiana won 3-1. Carson Henderlong scored his first goal for Indiana at Bill Armstrong Stadium in that game. And I was reading back my thoughts just from that article, and just kind of the unique presence he is as kind of a target man, just his ability to just bring the ball in and with the frame that he has to be able to do that. It was an interesting one a year and a half ago now. So there's a tiny bit of film that these teams can share on one another, but Indiana are so radically different from that 5-at-the-back that had so many different players.
Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being you could take everything from that match. 1 being you'd throw that film away. Where do you stand?
A 2.
Yeah, no, you gotta throw that away.
I think you can.
Patrick McDonald as a wingback.
I was just throwing the question out there.
You might
center
see.
his
Spicer even on the
season.
team there?
I have no idea. You might see some film of the players.
Spicer's a senior, redshirt junior.
You'll see some
Yeah.
film of some guys who could still be on the team very easily. Some of the freshmen who came in a bit early to get some time for Lipscomb.
Also, Lipscomb
Very
is
easy.
very international. They have 13 international players from 9 different countries. It's
Interesting.
I'm curious, that coaching staff. Are they sending guys to Sierra Leone? They have 2 guys
That's a
from
big
Sierra
budget.
Leone. 2 guys from
Okay,
Cyprus,
where is
too.
Sierra Leone?
Is it in Africa? Is it like Northern Africa?
Maybe. This is. Okay.
What about Cyprus? Where is Cyprus?
Cyprus.
What has happened? What?
This is where their players are from.
Sierra Leone is a country in West Africa. Well done.
Okay.
Joe.
Cyprus is.
Cyprus is probably
I think.
No, that isn't Europe. I
Eastern
think.
Europe. I
That's
think
in
it's
Europe?
no.
Yeah, isn't it Eastern Europe?
Eastern. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Cyprus is a country in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I
but
was say
isn't
Middle
it
East.
right next to
Eastern
Eastern?
They got
Mediterranean
guys
Sea.
from Cyprus,
that was right. Nailed it.
Canada, Northern Ireland.
Hockey, our bad
Oh, wait,
geography
it's an
of
island.
anywhere
Oh, yikes.
not America. This is a nice way to end the podcast.
I did not.
One of their best
perfect
that's
pod.
where
This is
that
just an
island
everyday
is.
pod now,
Okay.
Jack.
They're,
Damn it, that's why I'm saying,
Spicer's from
yikes, 'cause
Trinidad
I
and
forgot
Tobago.
there
Yeah,
was
we had
that
talked to him.
Yeah.
He's got
island
awesome
right next to.
accent.
Wait,
Really
is that
fantastic.
where Rhodes is? No, that's not where Rhodes is. Rhodes is right here.
Rhodes?
Yeah,
Like the
s-
college?
No, the city, dude.
Oh.
I like your lock screen.
Thank you.
It's one of those big islands in the Mediterranean.
All right,
we
we
gotta
have
hop on a
5
fast
minutes
forward.
until
Do you think-
Todd Yeagley talks to us. So we
Wait, can we
quickly have
say
to go
on the
through
podcast?
predictions.
And,
No, that would be
no,
incredibly
I don't
awkward.
think
If
we're
we're all
allowed to
wearing
do that.
headsets and we're doing it on 3 different computers, that would look very, very strange.
All right.
You said 1-0
1-0
Indiana. Jack, you've given your opinion.
1-1 regulation, and then
2-1
Indiana overtime goal.
Oh, okay.
2-1.
Crone zone?
be 1-1 at half. Indiana pulls away 3-1.
Oh,
3-1.
Hello, 2
Wow.
second half goals.
I'll say 2-1 Indiana. They go up 2-0 just like they did against Wisconsin, and then
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and then they
concede like a
Right.
like a 65th or something like that.
later than that. I'll say
say
70th.
This team
That's
scores
much later.
in that
A whopping 5 minutes later.
You see that in the last 15 minutes, they've scored 10 goals this season.
Indiana
No, Lipscomb.
opponents. Oh,
Lipscomb
Lipscomb.
has.
They score early too. They,
Yeah.
I mean, they score 43 goals. Top 5 in the country.
They just score. They just
4th
score.
in the country in goals.
I like it. They had this thing broken
I
up
see
in
a
their
shutout,
match,
though.
and it's like intervals of when they scored.
I see a shutout. I think Indiana, they're trending in the right
know,
direction.
there's so many
They're
players
gritty.
that can score,
They
though.
lock things down. This is going to be the home crowd potential, the last guaranteed home match. I think I'm going to be there, and I'm interested to see how that crowd kind of translates, especially with the men's basketball game also about an hour after that.
I feel like people would rather watch the soccer team after
know,
that
I would.
performance on Sunday.
I know I would.
After both
we're all
teams' performance
biased, I
on
think.
Sunday?
We're all
Come
biased.
on. An 8-point win over Army, is that something to celebrate?
Respecting the troops after the day after Veterans Day. I will say,
there we go.
I'll
Joe's
say
getting
one
mad.
thing. Nick
Joe-
Rodicap
Joe's
nailed
getting
it. He
mad.
said 1-0 Indiana would be Penn State. So he texted me his scoreline. I said he is class right now. So I said I'll show him the respect. 2-1 Indiana, goals from Sarver and Malone. So he and I are on the same page.
I'm feeling a Collins goal.
Yeah, it's been a while.
it's
since
been a
I've
while.
had
Now
four.
we're just now we're just throwing up prayers and like hoping that they're gonna hit. Like
I think JT Harm scores.
Mahalik.
If JT
all right, we got
scores-
3 minutes.
Okay.
Close it out.
All right,
we
all
got
right.
a press to get to.
That'll do it for this special episode of the Q49 podcast. Jack, our thanks to you for hopping on.
Thanks
Thank
for
you for
having me.
being back in town. And we had you. The fact that Lipscomb played that spring match and you were there, combined with the fact that you said you were going to go to a match.
My
this
great
entire time.
nuance of this team. I'm glad I was able to come back. Great time, as always, with you gentlemen. So thanks for having me.
That'll do it. We'll see you guys on Thursday. We'll be at Bill Armstrong 6 o'clock kickoff. You can watch the match on ESPN Plus. That is a different streaming site. website. You can also listen on WIUX. We'll shout out other student media organizations. Everyone's saying goodbye. This time, Matt is not going to throw his headphones across the room.
Hey,
Why did you throw it last time?
You didn't.
no, because I was saying it was a joke from. What was I joking about?
I don't know.
I wasn't
Was
actually
that
going to do it.
Use your
Keep it
mic.
on, though.
Use your mic.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
It's bad principles, bad manners.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're out. We'll see you next time.